Silence is the one thing a woman cannot negotiate with, cannot predict, and cannot manipulate, because it forces her to face something she spends her entire life avoiding, her own thoughts. When a man stops reacting, stops over-explaining, stops defending himself, stops trying to convince her of his worth, she suddenly confronts a version of him she has never dealt with before, a version she cannot control emotionally. Women are used to men trying to fix things, men trying to chase, men trying to talk things out, men trying to hold on, but silence removes all of that. Silence is the absence of emotional fuel. It's the point where you stop feeding her ego, her drama, her confusion, her power, and the moment she feels that emptiness, that void where your energy used to be, it shakes her more deeply than any argument ever could. Every woman knows how to win a conversation. They know how to twist your words, flip the blame, redirect the topic, make you defend things you didn't even do. But silence disarms all of it, because silence gives her nothing to work with. When you're quiet, she cannot redirect anything. She cannot escalate anything. She cannot pull a reaction out of you. And women thrive on reactions: emotional, angry, desperate, romantic, confused. It doesn't matter what emotion it is, as long as they triggered it. But when you sit there, calm, collected, present but unmoved, she loses the one weapon she always believed she could count on: your emotional responsiveness. Suddenly, she is exposed. Suddenly, she has to deal with the consequences of her actions without the comfort of your reaction, softening the blow. Silence works because it forces a woman to think inwards instead of outwards. Women rarely self-reflect, while a man is still available to carry the emotional weight for them. As long as you're talking, explaining, chasing, reassuring, or arguing, she never has to examine herself. She can blame you for everything. She can run from her own insecurities, her own guilt, her own mistakes. But when you go silent, and I'm talking about masculine silence, not emotional sulking, you interrupt her escape routes. You stop giving her emotional shortcuts, and without those shortcuts, she sits alone with the truth she was running from. It's in that moment that women start to feel the weight of what they did, not because they're suddenly wise, but because silence removes the noise that protected them from themselves. What silence does better than anything else is create emotional contrast. When you were talking, giving, reacting, engaging, she felt powerful, secure, and validated. She had your attention, your energy wrapped around her. She believed she owned that version of you forever. But when you withdraw that energy, she experiences emotional whiplash. She goes from abundance to scarcity instantly, from certainty to confusion, from comfort to insecurity. And the human mind, especially the female mind, does not handle sudden emotional contrast well. It creates anxiety, it creates doubt, it creates obsession. She starts replaying conversations, rereading old messages, analyzing little moments she brushed off before. Your silence turns into a mirror that forces her to confront what she lost. A man who knows how to use silence is not weak. He is powerful, intentional, dangerous in the most controlled way. Because silence doesn't mean avoidance. It doesn't mean passive aggression. It means discipline. It means knowing when your presence is valuable and when your absence is louder. A woman feels this difference immediately. She can tell when silence comes from fear and when silence comes from strength. And the latter terrifies her, because a strong silent man is a man she cannot manipulate, a man she cannot predict, a man who sees the world without needing her validation. She suddenly feels small in front of him, not because he said anything, but because his silence exposes her emotional immaturity. Here's the truth. No one tells you women hear silence louder than words. Words can be ignored, words can be twisted, words can be dismissed, but silence echoes. Silence makes her feel your absence in places she didn't expect. In her routines, in her nights, in her mind, when she tries to distract herself. Silence makes her wonder if you're done. Silence makes her realize she misjudged your worth. Silence makes her question her own value. Every day you say nothing, she thinks more. She imagines more, she fears more. And this fear is what pulls her back. Not love, not commitment, not clarity. Fear of losing someone who was once emotionally available but no longer is. Silence turns the tables without you lifting a finger. Silence is powerful because it removes the arena where she usually wins, emotional chaos. Women are masters of emotional storms. They know how to create confusion, how to push your buttons, how to trigger your insecurities, how to escalate drama until you break. But silence destroys her battlefield. You deny her the chaos she thrives on. you force peace. And peace, ironically, is the one thing emotional manipulators cannot handle, because peace exposes who they really are. When you stop reacting, her drama stops having value. When you stop defending yourself, her accusations lose power. When you stop explaining, her confusion cannot grow. Your silence turns her emotional weapons into harmless noise. Silence shifts the power dynamic instantly. When you're talking too much, she feels superior. When you're justifying yourself, she feels dominant. When you're arguing, she feels validated. But when you go silent, calm, composed, detached, she feels uncertainty. And uncertainty is the emotional leverage point that forces attraction or regret. Women crave emotional certainty from men. They want to know you're invested. They want to know you're attached. They want to know they can get a reaction from you whenever they want. So when silence disrupts this expectation, she starts panicking quietly. She starts wondering, did I push too far? Is he getting over me? Is he talking to someone else? Is he changing? Did I lose him? This spiral begins with your silence, not your words. Most men think silence is about ignoring her. No, silence is about refusing to engage in anything beneath your value. Silence is respecting yourself enough to not argue with someone who already made up her mind. Silence is understanding that peace is more seductive than desperation. Silence is letting her see what life feels like without your reassurance and your emotional labor. And as those days pass, she starts realizing something painful. She depends on your energy more than you ever depended on hers. Your silence makes her see that she wasn't the one holding the relationship together. You were. The final reason silence disarms any woman is this: silence is the only response that forces her to confront the consequences of her actions. When you yell, she blames you. When you argue, she feels empowered. When you explain, she feels validated. When you chase, she feels superior. But silence turns the spotlight on her choices. Silence makes her accountable for what she did. Silence forces her to feel the impact of losing you. And the longer you stay silent, the louder the regret becomes inside her mind. She may pretend she doesn't care. She may act strong. She may talk to someone else. But deep down, your silence is the one thing she cannot escape, because it exposes the truth she never wanted to face. You were the man she should have valued, and now she's the one chasing her own guilt. What silence really does is expose the truth she tries to hide from you, because when a woman knows she can provoke you, when she knows she can get a reaction anytime she wants, she feels powerful. But when you stop reacting, when you stop explaining yourself, when you stop defending your position, she suddenly loses access to the emotional control she once had over you, and that terrifies her more than any argument ever could. Your silence starts forcing her to confront her own insecurities, her own fears, her own doubts about losing you, and she hates that because it turns the mirror back on her instead of on you. Men talk because they want to fix things. Women talk because they want to feel something. When you stay silent, she can't feel anything from you. No validation, no reassurance, no emotional feeding. And suddenly the dynamic flips. She starts overthinking. She starts replaying conversations. She starts wondering if she pushed too far, if she crossed the line, if she accidentally ruined something that she thought she had under control. Silence forces her to sit with the consequences of her own behavior, and most women cannot handle that. They crumble internally, long before they ever admit it out loud. What she doesn't realize is that your silence is not a punishment, it's clarity. It is the moment you stop negotiating with disrespect. It is the moment you stop trying to convince her to treat you right. It is the moment you stop engaging in emotional games she used to win with ease. Silence is you saying, "I'm done dancing for you." And that is exactly when she starts dancing for you. Because nothing scares a woman more than losing access to a man who once cared. She will pretend it doesn't affect her, but deep inside, she feels the ground shift. The irony is that women are masters of emotional expression until you stop reacting. Then suddenly she's the quiet one. She starts speaking less. She starts becoming more cautious. Because silence from a man she respects creates tension. She cannot navigate. It forces her to fill the void. She starts sending longer texts. She starts checking up on you more. She starts asking subtle questions like, "Are you okay? Did I do something? Why are you being distant?" The silence makes her do the chasing because she can't stand not knowing where she stands with you. When you stay silent, she feels the loss before you even leave her life. She feels the shift in your energy. She senses that the emotional connection she relied on is slipping away from her. Women are hyper-attuned to emotional distancing. They can feel it like cold wind through a cracked window. and your silence is the coldest wind of all. She starts panicking quietly, trying to figure out how to get you back into the emotional cage she once kept you in. But the silence makes her realize that you're no longer there willingly. Silence also reveals who she truly is with you. If your silence makes her angrier instead of concerned, it means she never cared about you. She only cared about controlling you. If she responds with manipulation, guilt-tripping, provoking, or trying to shame you into reacting, that's not love, that's ownership. Silence is the test that exposes the difference. A woman who genuinely values you will feel your silence emotionally. A woman who only used you for validation will feel nothing but frustration because she can't get what she wants anymore. Most men ruin everything by breaking their silence too early. They get uncomfortable, they feel guilty, they feel the need to explain themselves. But silence is not about ignoring her, it's about protecting your peace and regaining your power. When you break silence too soon, you hand that power right back to her. But when you hold your silence long enough, something incredible happens. She stops fighting you and starts reflecting. She starts thinking about the things she said, the way she acted, and the moments she took you for granted. Silence forces introspection far more effectively than confrontation ever could. Silence is powerful because it removes emotion from the situation. You're not angry, you're not bitter, you're not arguing, you're simply not engaging. That neutrality is what rattles her. Women are used to men reacting emotionally, yelling, chasing, explaining, defending. But a man who is emotionally calm, emotionally centered, emotionally silent, that's a man she cannot predict or control. And unpredictability is the one thing that destabilizes female psychology more than anything else. She can handle your anger. She cannot handle your indifference. When you go silent, she starts remembering everything you ever did for her, every effort, every moment of presence, every bit of emotional support. And suddenly she starts comparing it to the version of you now, the silent man who doesn't need her, doesn't beg, doesn't explain, doesn't chase, and it hits her. She begins to realize that she miscalculated your worth. She starts questioning whether she lost the best version of you. Silence makes her feel the absence of what she once took for granted, and absence is a powerful teacher. But the part that truly destroys her is this. Silence forces her to face the possibility that you may never return to the version of you she had access to. This is what triggers panic, regret, and longing. Because in your silence, she sees a man who has stepped into his emotional strength. And there is nothing more attractive or intimidating to a woman than a man who refuses to be emotionally controlled. Silence doesn't just disarm her, it forces her to reevaluate everything about you, about herself, and about the future she thought she could predict. Silence hits her hardest at night, because nighttime is when the mind stops running and the truth begins speaking. When she's alone with her thoughts, when the distractions fade, when no one is texting her, when the noise of the world dies down, that's when your silence gets loud. She replays every moment where she dismissed your feelings, every conversation where she talked over you, every time she made you feel small, every instance where she assumed you'd always be there, no matter how she treated you. And suddenly she realizes your silence is not just quiet, it's a message, it's a conclusion, it's a shift in your soul. Women fear silence at night because it exposes the emotional distance that daylight helps them deny. Your silence also breaks the illusion she built about you, because women create a story in their mind about how a man will react. She expected you to argue back. She expected you to explain yourself. She expected you to fight for her, plead with her, chase her, but your silence forces her to rewrite the story, and she hates that. It destroys her belief that she had you figured out. And when a woman realizes she misread a man, she feels something she rarely admits: respect. Silence is the moment she sees you're not the predictable man she thought you were. You're a man she underestimated, and now she must face the consequences of her own arrogance. What silence really threatens is her sense of emotional security, because when a woman knows she can control your reactions, she feels safe, not safe in a loving way, but safe in a way that allows her to act without consequences. Your silence strips that safety from her. It forces her to confront the idea that you are no longer emotionally available on command. She starts wondering if someone else is getting your attention. She starts imagining you moving on. She starts fearing the very thing she once assumed she never had to worry about: losing you. And this fear doesn't show as softness, it shows as irritation, questions, defensiveness, random emotional outbursts, but it's all rooted in the same truth. Silence shakes her internal stability. Silence also overturns the dynamic she's used to. Women grow up in a world where their emotions dictate the pace of relationships. When she's upset, she expects you to fix it. When she's distant, she expects you to chase. When she's moody, she expects you to stabilize her. But your silence flips the script. Now she is the one dealing with uncertainty. She is the one feeling a loss of connection. She is the one craving emotional reassurance. She is the one wondering where things stand. And this reversal forces her to taste the very confusion she once put you through. Silence becomes the great equalizer and often the great awakener. But the most powerful part of silence is that it allows you to reclaim the emotional space you lost. When you stop reacting, you begin observing. You start seeing her behavior clearly. You start recognizing the moments you let slide. You start understanding the difference between love and emotional manipulation. Silence creates a spiritual distance that clears your vision. It helps you see whether she ever valued you or if she simply valued the attention you gave her. And the more silent you remain, the more you realize that half of what you were fighting for wasn't even worth fighting for. Silence gives you the clarity that emotion blinds you from. She senses this clarity, even if you never say a word. A woman can feel when a man stops making her the center of his world. She can feel when your energy pulls back. She can feel when your soul detaches, even if your presence is still near. And this terrifies her, because women rely on emotional connection for influence. When that influence fades, so does her confidence. She starts trying harder, not because she suddenly loves you more, but because she can feel the power dynamic shifting out of her hands. Your silence is the signal that she no longer holds the emotional leverage she once weaponized. Silence forces her to confront her own contributions to the breakdown. It makes her analyze her tone. It makes her rethink her decisions. It makes her replay her attitude, and something she thought she could get away with, like disrespect, coldness, sarcasm, inconsistency, suddenly weighs on her. Because now it's not followed by your reaction, but by your withdrawal, and that withdrawal tells her more than any argument could have. Women don't feel guilty from your words. They feel guilty from the consequences. Silence becomes the consequence she never expected, but deeply feels. A woman's ego takes the biggest hit when silence is involved, because silence removes her ability to calculate your emotions. She can't tell if you're angry, bored, disappointed, or done, and that uncertainty destroys the illusion of control she previously had. She starts strategizing. She starts reaching out in small ways. She starts testing to see if she still affects you. Because deep down, she is not trying to reconnect. She is trying to restore her influence. But your continued silence slowly makes her realize something devastating. She no longer has access to the version of you who cared too much. What she doesn't tell anyone is that silence hits her pride more than her heart. Because your silence sends a message she never wanted to hear. She was not as important to you as she assumed. That one realization can destabilize even the strongest female ego. Women are terrified of being forgotten more than being unloved, and silence suggests that forgetting her might actually be happening. She doesn't fear losing you. She fears you no longer seeing her as significant. Silence threatens the image she held of herself in your life, and that's why it cuts so deeply. And eventually, silence becomes the moment she realizes she is no longer the center of your emotional world. She realizes she cannot dictate your reactions anymore. She realizes you are no longer hanging on her words, and with that realization comes something she will never admit: regret. Regret for pushing you away. Regret for taking you for granted. Regret for not realizing your worth earlier. Silence is the moment where she recognizes what she had, not when you were with her, but when your absence becomes undeniable. Silence doesn't just disarm her, it humbles her. Silence is the moment she realizes you're no longer emotionally dependent on her, and that realization shakes her deeper than any argument ever could. Because as long as she believed you needed her validation, her approval, her presence, she felt safe. Not safe in a loving way, but safe in a way that allowed her to underestimate you. But when your silence shows her that her attention is no longer the oxygen you breathe, she feels something she never expected to feel: irrelevance. Women can tolerate losing a man, but they cannot tolerate becoming irrelevant to a man who once valued them. Your silence forces her to question her impact, her value, and her place in your life, and it does so without you uttering a single word. You see, silence becomes a mirror, a brutal mirror, because when a woman no longer hears from you, she is forced to see the parts of herself she could ignore as long as you kept engaging. She starts questioning her actions. She starts replaying the disrespect she brushed off. She starts remembering the tone she used when she assumed you'd always stay, and she starts realizing that maybe, just maybe, she misread your breaking point. Silence exposes her behavior in a way your voice never could, because your voice triggers her defensiveness, but your silence triggers her introspection. She can't argue with silence. She can't deflect silence. She can't manipulate silence. Silence simply reflects her back to herself. What she fears most is the possibility that you might actually be better off without her, because silence suggests growth, it suggests discipline, it suggests self-respect, and women are most intimidated by a man who grows after losing them. She imagined you broken, desperate, stuck. She expected you to spiral, to chase, to cling, but silence suggests transformation. And here's the truth, nothing haunts a woman more than watching a man become stronger after she's gone. It makes her ask a question she doesn't want to ask. Was I holding him back? And the moment she asks that question, her entire story about the breakup collapses. Your silence also exposes her emotional immaturity. If she can't handle your silence, it reveals that she never valued emotional stability to begin with. She only valued emotional control. Because a mature woman responds to silence with communication. An insecure woman responds to silence with panic. A manipulative woman responds to silence with games, and your silence helps you see exactly who she is without you having to do anything. When she starts sending mixed signals, when she starts posting for attention, when she starts fishing for a reaction, she's not communicating attraction, she's communicating instability. Silence becomes your filter. It shows you what kind of woman you were dealing with all along. And then comes the shift, the psychological shift she tries to hide. At first, she tells herself your silence doesn't matter. She pretends she's unbothered. She keeps up the confident facade. She posts motivational quotes. She posts selfies. She acts busy, but slowly, the cracks begin to show. She starts checking your stories. She starts asking mutual people about you. She starts wondering why she doesn't feel the validation she expected. Silence forces her to confront a truth that terrifies her. Your absence changed the emotional landscape she thought she controlled, and suddenly, she feels the weight of losing a man who once showed her more care than she ever appreciated. Silence also removes the emotional noise from your own mind, because when you stop reacting, you start healing, you start detaching, you start rebuilding yourself from the inside out, and she can feel that. Women are unbelievably sensitive to emotional shifts, especially when the man they once took for granted starts regaining his inner strength. She can sense that you're becoming grounded, focused, unbothered, and that new energy pulls at her subconscious. Silence becomes your rebuild phase, and the more you rebuild, the more she realizes she cannot match the man you're becoming. That contrast between who you were and who you're evolving into creates a regret she cannot put into words. Eventually, she starts to see your silence as distance, not temporary distance, permanent distance, and this is when panic begins, because the one thing every woman fears most is permanent loss, not breakups, not arguments, not space, permanent emotional detachment. Silence is the first sign you are slipping out of her emotional reach. She can feel you no longer responding internally the way you used to. She can feel your heart no longer leaning toward her. She can feel the bond weakening. Not because you're punishing her, but because you're healing from her. And this kind of silence hits harder than any words. The silence of a man reclaiming himself. She begins to compare. She compares the new version of you to the old version of you. She compares you to the men currently around her. She compares the attention you gave her to the attention she's trying to get now. And it's in this comparison that she starts realizing something she never considered when she had you. You were rare. Your loyalty, your patience, your generosity, your emotional consistency. She assumed she could replace all of it, but silence forces her to test that assumption in real life. And when the world proves her wrong, when she meets men who lack what you had naturally, she starts to feel the loss in a way that words cannot describe. Silence is also the moment she realizes she can't manipulate you anymore, because once a man goes silent, he becomes unpredictable. And unpredictable men are the hardest to control. She cannot guilt trip you. She cannot bait you. She cannot trigger you. She cannot sway your emotions with hers. Silence means she no longer has direct access to your heart, and that terrifies her, because it means she lost not just your presence, but her influence. Women fear losing influence more than losing affection. Silence takes away her ability to shape your emotions, and once that power is gone, she realizes the relationship she had with you will never exist again. Silence becomes your declaration, Not a loud one, not a dramatic one, but a powerful one. Silence says, I'm no longer emotionally available to be mistreated. It says, I choose peace over chaos. It says, your behavior will not dictate my heart anymore. And whether she admits it or not, your silence becomes the turning point in her story. The moment she realizes she miscalculated your value. Silence isn't revenge. It isn't manipulation. It isn't cruelty. Silence is the moment a man chooses himself. And when a man chooses himself, a woman who took him for granted finally understands what she lost. When she finally realizes your silence isn't a game, something shifts inside her, something deeper than panic, deeper than regret. It's the moment she understands that you're not withholding attention, you're simply done offering it. This is where your silence hits her core, because silence, when it's real, has a different energy. It's not reactive, it's not strategic, it's acceptance, and acceptance is the one thing she never anticipated from you. She expected resistance. She expected you to fight for her. She expected you to prove your love again and again. But when you accept her behavior for what it is, and quietly choose to move beyond it, she suddenly feels the weight of being seen, judged, and dismissed by the very man who once loved her the most. Your silence shows her that what she lost wasn't just a partner, but a sanctuary. You were the place she ran to when she was insecure. You were the attention she relied on when the world made her feel invisible. You were the emotional home she thought she could always return to. But when you go silent, that home disappears, and for the first time, she has to face the truth that she never learned how to be emotionally independent. She always had you to fall back on, your reassurance, your patience, your stability. Silence removes the safety net she took for granted, and suddenly she is forced to confront life without the emotional security you used to provide. And that shock, that devastation, it breaks through even the strongest ego. Silence also forces her into emotional withdrawal, not because she wants to pull back, but because she doesn't know how to reach forward anymore. She's stuck between wanting your validation and fearing your indifference, and this is where your power grows, because when she doesn't know what you're thinking, she starts imagining it. She starts filling the silence with her own fears. Is he over me? Did he find someone better? Did he stop caring completely? Did he finally see through me? These questions invade her mind day after day, because silence creates psychological pressure she can't control, escape, or resolve without you. Silence lets her mind punish itself in ways your words never could. What truly destroys her is the contrast, the difference between who you were when she had access to you and who you are now that she doesn't. She remembers the man who tried, the man who cared, the man who showed effort, even when she didn't, the man who stayed even when she acted like she didn't need him. And she compares that man to the version of you that now exists, the version who doesn't call, doesn't chase, doesn't react, doesn't beg. That contrast becomes unbearable because it exposes a truth she avoided admitting. She pushed away a version of you that another woman will be grateful for, and the silence forces her to feel that she threw away a man who many women would consider a blessing. Your silence also disrupts her narrative. Most women create a story after a breakup to protect their ego. They tell themselves you are immature, or controlling, or emotional, or not good enough. They convince themselves they didn't lose anything valuable, but silence destroys that narrative, because silence contradicts everything she told herself. If you were needy, why aren't you chasing her? If you were desperate, why did you walk away so cleanly? If you were weak, why are you stronger now than ever? Your silence dismantles the excuses she built to justify leaving or devaluing you. And when her excuses collapse, she is left with the one truth she was running from. She wasn't good to you, and now she has to face the consequences. Silence puts you in a position she never expected, the position of emotional authority, because the person who is silent is the one in control of the emotional pace. Think about it. When you argue, she controls the pace. When you justify, she controls the frame. When you chase, she controls the distance. But when you go silent, suddenly she doesn't know what tempo the relationship is moving in anymore. You are no longer reacting to her. She is reacting to the absence of you. For once, she is in the unsteady position. She is the one waiting. She is the one wondering. She is the one replaying the past. Silence transfers the emotional gravity from her to you, and women are not used to feeling that shift. It destabilizes their sense of power. There is also a deeper truth here. Silence teaches her something about love that she never wanted to learn. Women believe love is loud, that it's shown through arguments, reassurances, emotional explosions, passion, chaos, but silence teaches her the darker truth. Real love can die quietly. No warning, no drama, just nothing. Silence reveals how fragile emotional ties actually are. She realizes that love doesn't end with betrayal or betrayal alone. Sometimes it ends with exhaustion. Sometimes it ends when the man who carried the emotional weight for too long finally puts it down. And that realization haunts her because she thought she had more time before you reached your breaking point. This is also when jealousy hits, but it's not jealousy of another woman specifically. It's jealousy of your life without her, jealousy of your peace, jealousy of your growth, jealousy of your emotional stability. She sees the glow returning to your face. She sees the calm returning to your life. She feels the emotional distance in your tone, your presence, your energy. And jealousy forms, not because she wants you, but because she can't stand watching you thrive in a world where she no longer matters. Silence creates a psychological distance she cannot cross, and the more silent you remain, the more she becomes an outsider in a story she used to be a part of. Eventually, silence becomes the story she tells herself at night, the story that keeps her awake. It's not your words she misses, it's the feeling she had when she knew she mattered to you. Silence takes away that feeling. Silence makes her confront the possibility that she was the worst version of herself with the best version of you. And that contradiction tears her apart. She begins to see that you weren't the man she walked away from. You were the man she was never ready for. The man she should have grown with but didn't. The man who deserved better and now has become better. Silence forces her to confront her own emotional immaturity, and that's a kind of pain no woman is prepared for. And finally, silence forces her to live with the one outcome she never prepared for, a life where you are no longer accessible. She assumed you'd always be there. She assumed you'd always answer. She assumed she could always return. But silence is the moment she realizes the door isn't just closed, it's locked. You are no longer hers, not emotionally, not mentally, not spiritually. And as you rise into the man you were meant to be, she becomes a distant part of your past, a reminder of who you were, not who you are now. That's the true power of silence. It doesn't just disarm her, it frees you. And the moment you are free, she becomes trapped in the memories of a man she can never have again.